On a quiet night, when the world seemed to sleep under a blanket of stars, there was a small village nestled at the foot of a mountain. The villagers had all gone to bed, wrapped in their blankets, as the soft breeze whispered through the trees. The quiet of the night felt so peaceful that even the crickets had quieted their songs, and the air itself seemed to hold its breath. But up in the sky, something magical was about to happen. The moon, large and glowing, began to shine brighter than ever before, casting a silvery light over the land. It was as if the moon had something to share, a secret hidden for ages. Slowly, the moon began to hum a soft melody, a lullaby that echoed across the fields and the rooftops. At first, no one noticed, for it was a sound that only the most attentive ears could hear. It wasn't loud, it was quiet and gentle, like a whisper only the night could understand. The tune was sweet, slow, and soft, like a mother singing to her child. It was a melody that had been passed down through the generations, from the stars to the moon, and from the moon to the earth. It was a lullaby that was centuries old, filled with comfort and love. The moon had sung it to the stars for eons, and now, for the first time, it was singing it to the world below. The melody spread through the village, reaching every home, every corner of the fields, even the quiet stream that wound its way through the valley. It was a tune so soothing that everything it touched seemed to settle in a peaceful stillness. Slowly, one by one, the animals in the village began to stir. The owl, perched on its favorite tree, tilted its head, its eyes wide as if trying to understand the melody. It had heard many sounds before, but this one was different. The owl blinked a few times, almost in awe, as the song filled the air. The rabbits, who had been hopping in the meadow, stopped their playful dancing and sat still, their ears twitching as the song wrapped around them like a warm blanket. Even the flowers, which were usually curled up for the night, seemed to open just a little wider, their petals swaying as if dancing to the moon's song. In the distance, the river, usually rushing with energy, seemed to slow its pace, its waters calming as the moon's lullaby echoed over its surface. It was as though the entire world, for just a moment, had paused to listen. Far away, in a small cottage near the edge of the village, a little girl named Lily tossed and turned in her bed. She had always been a light sleeper, waking up at the slightest sound. But tonight, something was different. The usual rustling of leaves and creaking of the house didn't disturb her. Instead, there was a soft, steady hum that filled the air, one that seemed to draw her attention. She opened her eyes slowly, feeling the peacefulness of the night settle over her. She had heard the moon's song before in her dreams, but tonight it was real, and she could hear it clearly. Her heart began to calm as the lullaby gently soothed her worries, and for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel the usual restlessness that kept her up at night. The song seemed to hold her in its warmth, and she felt as though the moon was there, singing just for her. Her eyes fluttered open, and she sat up in bed, the moonlight spilling softly through her window. The moon was glowing brighter than ever before, and the stars, too, seemed to be shining more brightly, as if they were nodding in rhythm to the song. Lily slowly got out of bed, pulled her blanket tighter around her shoulders, and walked to the window. She opened it just a crack, letting the cool night air fill her room with a fresh breeze. Her eyes followed the moon as it bathed the world below in silver light. The melody of the lullaby wrapped around her, and she couldn't help but smile. It was as though the moon was speaking directly to her, its soft tune offering her comfort and reassurance. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the sound of the lullaby wash over her. With every note, she felt her fears and anxieties fade away. The song was pure and gentle, like the softest of whispers, and it carried with it a sense of safety that made Lily feel as though nothing could harm her. She felt a deep peace settle in her heart, and her eyelids grew heavy. Slowly, she climbed back into bed, pulling the warm blankets around her. As she lay there, listening to the moon's lullaby, the song grew softer, as if the moon knew she was ready to drift off to sleep. It was a sound so soothing that it felt as though the world itself had wrapped her in a gentle embrace. Her mind quieted, and her breathing became slow and steady. She could almost imagine herself floating through the stars, surrounded by the glow of the moon. The song continued to play softly, like a dream that didn't need words, only the comforting presence of the night. Outside her window, the world fell silent, each creature and plant swaying softly to the rhythm of the moon's song. The owl closed its eyes, the rabbits curled into the soft earth, and even the flowers, once fully awake, now rested under the moon's watchful eye. The entire village, from the tallest tree to the deepest stream, seemed to breathe in unison with the melody. And as the moon's lullaby continued, Lily's dreams carried her further into the night. She floated on gentle clouds, dancing among the stars, feeling light and free. The worries of the day were gone, replaced with the soft melody of the moon's song. When the morning came, the village would wake to the golden light of the sun, but Lily would carry with her the memory of the moon's lullaby, a memory that would stay with her through every night. From that night on, whenever Lily lay in bed, she would close her eyes and smile, knowing that the moon's song was always there, ready to carry her into a peaceful, restful sleep. The moon had become her protector, a symbol of comfort and calm, in a world that sometimes felt too big and overwhelming. She knew, no matter how dark the night might seem, that the lullaby would always be there, reminding her that no night is ever too long, and there is always peace to be found under the watchful light of the moon. In a quiet valley nestled between towering silver-tipped mountains and gentle meadows that smelled of honey and pine, there lived a tiny bear named Momo. Momo was unlike any other bear in the forest. He was not fierce, nor was he loud. He had soft, golden-brown fur, a shiny black nose, and eyes that sparkled like morning dew. But what truly set Momo apart was his unusual gift. He collected dreams. Each night, while the forest animals slumbered under the soft glow of the moon, Momo would wake, stretch his little paws, and step into the starlit world. With a tiny, handmade satchel slung over his shoulder, he would wander quietly through the forest, listening. The wind whispered, the trees rustled, and in the stillness Momo could hear the gentle sighs of dreams as they floated from the minds of sleeping creatures. He would catch them carefully, dreams shaped like glowing feathers, tiny stars, or drifting sparkles. Unlike most bears who gathered food for the winter or built dens to sleep through the cold, Momo believed in something else entirely. He believed that dreams were not just fleeting illusions, but powerful things, small seeds of hope, courage, love, and laughter. And so, night after night, he wandered, gathering the dreams of squirrels, owls, deer, foxes, and even humans who lived in distant cottages near the forest edge. At dawn, Momo would walk up the hill to the dream tree, a majestic, silver-leaved tree that stood alone against the morning sky. The tree shimmered as if woven from moonlight. One by one, Momo would place the dreams he had collected on the tree's branches. Each dream sparkled and pulsed with light, and the tree absorbed them gently, storing them until they were needed again. When someone in the forest felt lost or afraid, when a young rabbit cried alone in its burrow, or a bear cub feared sleeping alone, the dream tree would send a soft glow into the air. A dream would float down, finding its way into the heart that needed it most. The dream might be of a sunny meadow, a warm hug, or a song sung by a loved one long gone. The forest whispered with gratitude, though no one ever knew who brought the dreams to the tree. One evening, as Momo prepared for his nightly journey, he noticed something troubling. The dreams had grown faint. The air no longer sparkled with their usual warmth. The dream tree had begun to dim, its branches drooping as if tired. Animals in the forest whispered of restless sleep and strange, empty nights. Momo felt a quiet sadness rise in his heart. Determined to find the missing dreams, Momo ventured deeper into the forest than he ever had before. Past the whispering woods and silent lakes, he entered the shadow glade, a place shrouded in mist and old stories. The trees were gnarled, their branches clawing at the sky, and in the center stood a large black raven, its feathers shimmering with darkness, its eyes deep as a midnight storm. "You have come for the dreams," the raven croaked without being asked. Momo nodded. "The forest is fading without them." The raven tilted its head. "Dreams are powerful, too powerful to be wasted on those who don't understand them. I've taken them to keep them safe." "But dreams are not meant to be locked away," Momo replied gently. "They are meant to be shared, to give light when darkness grows." The raven hesitated, its wings twitching. "If you believe they are truly worth sharing, show me. Show me a dream that matters." Momo reached into his satchel and pulled out a single glowing dream, soft as snow and warm as a mother's embrace. He held it up, and the dream unfolded, showing a lonely wolf pup dreaming of playing with its lost siblings, of laughter echoing through the trees. The dream shimmered with longing and hope. The raven's eyes glistened. "I had forgotten," it whispered, "how dreams feel." With a cry that echoed through the forest, the raven flapped its wings and released the stolen dreams. They rose into the sky like glowing fireflies, dancing through the air and lighting up the glade. The mist lifted, the trees sighed with relief, and the stars above blinked brighter. Momo bowed his head in thanks. The raven said nothing more, but nodded and vanished into the night, leaving only a single black feather behind. From that night on, the dream tree pulsed with radiant light. Dreams returned stronger than ever. The forest sang soft lullabies again. Even the humans near the forest began to sleep more peacefully, their hearts lighter with every passing night. And Momo, gentle, quiet Momo, continued his walks, his satchel never empty, his spirit never tired. The forest never spoke of him openly, but in hushed tones under moonlight, they called him the Dream Bear. And sometimes, when the moon was high and full, if you listened closely, you could hear a soft hum in the night, a lullaby sung not by wind or tree, but by the moon itself, guided by the tiny bear who carried the dreams of the world on his shoulders. But as time went on, Momo found that the dreams he collected and shared didn't just heal others, they healed him too. He began to understand that even the smallest acts of kindness, even the quietest gifts, could change the world in ways beyond imagination. He had once believed that the dream tree and its glowing dreams were meant to help others, but now he realized that they had helped him too, helped him grow into someone who could face the darkest of times with light in his heart. One evening, as he placed a newly collected dream on the dream tree's shimmering branches, he paused and looked out across the valley. The wind rustled through the trees, the stars sparkled, and he could almost hear the soft hum of the universe itself. Momo smiled, his heart full. He had found his place in the world, and it was right here, in the forest, under the moon's tender gaze, surrounded by dreams that fluttered through the air like butterflies, soft and glowing. And as long as Momo was there, there would always be dreams, always be hope, and always be light in the darkest of nights. In a land far away, where the mountains kissed the skies and the valleys hummed with a quiet, timeless song, there was a village unlike any other. It was nestled in a hidden corner of the world, where the stars shone brighter than anywhere else. The people of this village lived in harmony with nature, their hearts attuned to the land's gentle rhythms. And, like the earth, they carried stories. Stories passed down through generations. Stories that danced in the wind and whispered through the leaves. But there was one story, older than the rest, that few dared to speak aloud. It was said that each night when the stars filled the sky like a blanket of shimmering light, the stars themselves whispered secrets to those who listened. These were not ordinary whispers. They were the whispers of the earth, the wind, and the very heartbeat of the world. The villagers believed these whispers held the key to understanding the deeper mysteries of life and death. Among the villagers there lived a young girl named Mira. She had the most curious heart and a keen sense for the unseen, always listening intently to the rustling leaves, the babbling brook, and the distant howl of the wolves. But what fascinated her most were the stars. Every night, as the sky darkened and the first twinkling lights appeared, Mira would lie on the soft grass beneath the ancient oak tree in the village square, her eyes fixed on the heavens. Her grandmother, who was the keeper of the village's most sacred stories, often spoke of the whispers. "The stars have stories to tell," she would say, her voice rich with age and wisdom. "But only those with an open heart can truly hear them." Mira's heart was open, but she was yet to hear the whispers herself. No matter how hard she tried, no matter how long she lay awake beneath the star-strewn sky, the whispers remained. Just out of reach. She could sense something, a distant hum in the air, but the words always eluded her. One fateful night, after a particularly long day spent helping her grandmother with chores, Mira felt an unexplainable pull. It was as though the stars themselves were calling to her. She felt the soft coolness of the evening air brush her skin as she climbed to the top of the hill behind her house. The moon hung high, casting a silver glow over the village below, and the stars were brighter than she had ever seen before. As she lay down on the cool grass, her eyes drifting upward, Mira whispered softly, "Please, let me hear your voices tonight." To her surprise, the stars seemed to shimmer a little, brighter as if acknowledging her request. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply, focusing on the rhythm of her own breath and the soft murmur of the wind through the trees. At first, it was just a rustle, a delicate rustling of the leaves, like the softest whispers brushing past her ears. She thought it was just the wind, but then it came again, clearer, closer. The rustling seemed to speak directly to her. A deep, ancient voice filled her mind. "You have listened long, child," the voice said, "but you must listen with more than just your ears. You must listen with your soul." Mira's heart skipped a beat. She opened her eyes, and for a moment the stars above seemed to glow. Brighter, their light bending and shifting as if they were alive. The wind caressed her cheeks, and the night felt full of meaning, full of something larger than she could understand. "What is it you wish to know?" the voice continued. Now, clear as the night sky, Mira hesitated. She had so many questions about the stars, about the earth, about the whispers that had eluded her for so long. But in that moment, one question felt more pressing than the others. "I want to know why the world sometimes feels so lonely," she said quietly, her voice barely a whisper. The stars flickered, as if pondering her question. And then, in a soft and gentle tone, the voice answered, "Loneliness is not something to fear, little one. It is part of the cycle. Just as the night follows the day, loneliness comes to remind us of the beauty in connection. Without the quiet spaces, we would not recognize the joy of being with others. Loneliness teaches us to seek the warmth of companionship, the touch of love." Mira felt a deep peace settle over her, but her heart ached with understanding. She had felt loneliness often, especially since her parents had passed away when she was young. Her grandmother had always been there, but there were nights when Mira felt a profound emptiness in her heart. Now, as the stars whispered their truths, she understood that loneliness was not a punishment, but a teacher, a guide that led her to seek deeper connections and meaning in the world around her. She closed her eyes, and the stars continued their gentle murmurs. The voice spoke again. "Look closely, child. Look to the world around you." Mira opened her eyes and gazed out over the valley. The moonlight bathed the earth in a soft, silvery glow, and the trees cast long, twisting shadows across the land. The village below, though small, was alive with quiet movement. The flicker of lights in windows, the rustling of animals preparing for sleep, the distant call of an owl. It was a world full of life, full of connections she had never truly noticed before. "You see," the stars whispered, "the world is full of whispers. Whispers that come from the earth, from the trees, from the wind. They are always there, waiting for you to listen." Mira smiled softly. She realized then that the loneliness she had felt was a fleeting feeling, one that came and went like the ebb and flow of the tides. What remained constant was the quiet, beautiful hum of the world around her. The whispers of the earth were everywhere. They were in the laughter of a child, the rustling of leaves, the crackling of a fire. They were in the touch of a friend, the embrace of a loved one. The stars had shown her that she was never truly alone. As the night deepened, Mira lay back on the grass once more, her heart light and her mind at peace. The stars above whispered softly, filling the air with a melody that seemed to rise from the earth itself. She closed her eyes and drifted into a peaceful sleep, her heart full of the knowledge that the whispers of the stars would always be with her, guiding her, comforting her, and reminding her that she was never truly alone. And from that night on, whenever the stars glimmered above, Mira knew that beneath their blanket of light, the earth was speaking, whispering stories of love, connection, and the quiet beauty of the world. All she had to do was listen. Once, upon a time, in a sky painted with soft shades of blue, there lived a sleepy little cloud named Nimbus. Nimbus was no ordinary cloud. He was round and fluffy with a touch of silver lining that shimmered in the morning sunlight. But what made Nimbus special was his love for sleep. While other clouds played in the sky, drifting and dancing, Nimbus would often drift off into a cozy nap, drifting lazily above the world below. Every day, Nimbus would wake up from his gentle slumber just in time to see the golden rays of the sun stretch across the horizon. He would lazily float along with the wind, daydreaming about faraway places and soft rainbows. He wasn't in a hurry, and he didn't mind taking his time. Sometimes he would get so caught up in his dreams that he forgot about the world around him. One warm afternoon, as Nimbus floated lazily across the sky, he felt his eyelids grow heavy. The sky was so calm, and the gentle breeze felt so soothing. He yawned and snuggled deeper into the softness of the clouds around him. Just a little nap, Nimbus thought to himself. Just a few minutes. And so he closed his eyes and let the wind carry him wherever it pleased. As he slept, Nimbus drifted farther and farther from his usual path. The wind, always gentle and caring, began to carry him towards places he had never been before. Up above the mountain peaks, over vast oceans, and through meadows full of flowers, Nimbus continued to sleep peacefully, unaware of how far he had traveled. Time passed, and soon the sky began to change. The sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of pink and purple. The world below began to quiet down, and the stars began to twinkle softly in the distance. But Nimbus remained, deep in his dreamlike slumber, floating gently along, still unaware of how far he had wandered. It wasn't until he woke up that Nimbus realized something was wrong. The first thing he noticed was the chill in the air. It wasn't the warm, comforting breeze he was used to. Instead, there was a cool, crisp wind brushing against him. He blinked his eyes open, stretching his fluffy form, and saw something he had never seen before, an endless stretch of dark, open water. Far below him, he could see the shimmering reflection of the stars on the ocean's surface, but there were no mountains, no meadows, no familiar landmarks. He was lost. Nimbus gasped in surprise. "Oh no," he said, his little cloud voice carrying on the wind. "How did I get so far?" He looked around, trying to spot something familiar, but all he saw was more water and a few scattered patches of clouds. His heart sank as he realized that he had drifted too far from home. He missed the peaceful sky above the meadow where he loved to float, and he missed the warm breeze that always carried him gently. Determined to find his way back, Nimbus took a deep breath. He wasn't sure where to start, but he knew that he had to try. So, he summoned all the strength he had and began to float upwards, hoping to catch the wind that would guide him home. But the farther he tried to go, the harder the wind seemed to push him in the opposite direction. Nimbus floated for what felt like hours, but the more he struggled, the more he realized that he was drifting even farther away. The stars above twinkled, but they didn't seem to offer any answers. In fact, the sky looked different here. More vast, more distant, and a little less friendly. Just when he was about to give up, Nimbus noticed something strange. In the distance, he saw a group of clouds, much larger than he was, floating gently along. They were different from the usual clouds he had seen before. These clouds were glowing, with a soft, silver light. They seemed to move with grace as if they were part of the moonlight itself. Nimbus, feeling a spark of hope, floated towards them. As he drew closer, he saw that the clouds weren't just drifting. They were moving with purpose, gliding over the ocean in a beautiful, graceful dance. "Hello," Nimbus called out, his voice full of wonder and curiosity. The clouds turned towards him, their soft glow shimmering in the night. One of the larger clouds, an elegant and wise-looking one, spoke in a gentle, soothing voice. "Hello, little one," it said. "You look lost. What brings you so far from home?" Nimbus hesitated for a moment before explaining. "I was just taking a nap, and before I knew it, I had drifted too far. Now, I'm lost. I don't know how to get back." The wise cloud smiled warmly, its glow softening. "Ah, I see," it said. "The wind can be a tricky guide, and sometimes it leads us to places we don't expect. But do not worry, little one. The sky is vast, but it is also full of paths that can lead you home. You simply have to trust in the journey." Nimbus felt comforted by the cloud's words. He had been so focused on finding a way back that he had forgotten to appreciate the beauty of the journey. He looked around, taking in the soft glow of the other clouds and the shimmering ocean beneath them. It was peaceful here, and perhaps it was not so bad to be lost after all. "But how do I find my way back?" Nimbus asked, still unsure of what to do. The wise cloud chuckled softly. "You must listen to the wind, little one. It will guide you. But remember, sometimes you must let go of your worries and let the wind carry you where it may. Trust in the sky, and trust in yourself." Nimbus nodded, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. He realized that the journey itself was just as important as the destination. With newfound confidence, he floated gently along, letting the wind carry him. The soft glow of the other clouds illuminated his way as he continued his journey. No longer worried about where he was going, but content to simply be along for the ride. As the night passed, Nimbus drifted with the clouds, moving towards new places, exploring the vast sky, and learning to trust the wind. Eventually, the stars above him began to guide him back home, and Nimbus knew that though the journey had been long, he had learned something important. Sometimes it's okay to float too far and get lost, because it's in the wandering that we find our true path. And so, when the dawn came, Nimbus finally floated back to the peaceful meadow where he belonged, his heart full of gratitude for the journey he had taken. Luna, a small silver owl, lived in a cozy little nest high in the branches of an ancient oak tree. Her feathers shimmered under the moonlight, and her eyes, bright and curious, could see in the dark better than any other creature in the forest. Luna loved the night, and she had a special connection with the stars that twinkled far above. Yet, despite her love for the quiet hours of the evening, Luna had always been puzzled by one thing: the mysterious silence that seemed to fill the forest at night. During the day, the forest was alive with sounds. Birds chirped, animals rustled in the bushes, and the wind whispered through the leaves. But when the sun sank behind the horizon and the moon rose in its place, something changed. The forest would become eerily still, as if the world itself had paused to listen to something. Luna had often asked her fellow creatures about this strange silence, but no one seemed to know its true origin. Her best friend, the wise old rabbit named Thistle, had once told her, "The night holds many secrets, Luna, and some of them are meant to be quiet." But Luna wasn't satisfied with this answer. She wanted to know the truth about the silent nights, the secret that the forest seemed to keep hidden. One evening, as the moon rose higher in the sky and a soft breeze blew through the branches, Luna decided that she would find out for herself. She was determined to uncover the secret of the silent nights. With a determined flutter of her wings, she left her cozy nest and flew deep into the forest. As she soared through the cool night air, Luna noticed how everything around her seemed still. The trees stood tall and motionless, their leaves barely rustling in the breeze. Not a single creature made a sound. It was as if the entire world was holding its breath. Luna flew lower, peering into the shadows between the trees, hoping to find some clue. After some time, Luna arrived at a small clearing in the forest. In the center of the clearing was a beautiful, shimmering pond. The water was so still that it reflected the moon perfectly, creating a mirror-like surface. Luna perched on a branch overlooking the pond, her feathers glowing softly in the moonlight. Just as she was about to turn away, she noticed something unusual. The surface of the pond seemed to ripple, though no wind was blowing and no creature had disturbed the water. Luna blinked in surprise. She had never seen the pond behave this way before. Curious, she flew closer to the water's edge, her wings silent in the air. As she gazed into the pond, she felt a strange pull. The ripples in the water grew larger, and suddenly, the reflection of the moon began to shift. It wasn't just the moon's image that changed, but the entire pond. Luna watched in awe as the pond seemed to come alive with swirling lights, colors, and patterns. It was as though the night itself had unfolded in front of her. Then she heard it, a soft whisper, barely audible at first, but growing clearer with each passing moment. The whisper seemed to be coming from the pond itself. Luna leaned in closer, her heart racing with excitement. "Who is there?" she called softly, her voice trembling in the quiet air. To her surprise, the whisper answered, though it was not a voice she had ever heard before. "I am the keeper of the silent nights," the voice said, echoing like the rustle of distant leaves. "I protect the peace and stillness that blankets the forest when the moon rises." Luna's eyes widened in awe. She had heard of the keeper before, but no one had ever seen them. It was said that the keeper was an ancient being, a spirit of the night who watched over the forest and ensured that the silence of the night remained undisturbed. "The silence is not an accident, Luna," the voice continued. "It is a gift. a sacred moment when the forest and all its creatures can rest. When the world sleeps, the secrets of the night are kept safe. But only those who truly understand the stillness can hear the whisper of the night. Luna was filled with wonder. She had always thought that the silence was just a natural part of the night, but now she realized that it was more than that. It was a deep, ancient magic, carefully protected by the keeper of the silent nights. But why? Luna asked, her voice full of curiosity. Why does the forest need this silence? What is the secret? The voice in the pond seemed to pause, and for a moment the only sound was the gentle ripple of water. The silence is a moment of reflection, Luna. It is a time when the forest can rest and heal and heal. It is when dreams are woven and the stars whisper their stories to the earth below. Without this stillness, the magic of the night would fade, and the forest would lose its connection to the stars and the moon. Luna sat quietly, absorbing the wisdom of the keeper's words. She felt a deep sense of peace wash over her as she understood the importance of the silence. It was not something to be feared or questioned, but something to be cherished. The stillness of the night allowed the world to rest and renew, ready for the new day. Now, Luna, the voice said gently, it is time for you to return to your nest. But remember, the secret of the silent nights is not one that is meant to be shared with all. It is a gift for those who seek it with a pure heart and an open mind. Keep the silence in your heart, and you will always understand the magic of the night. Luna nodded, her wings fluttering softly. I will remember, she promised, feeling the weight of the night's wisdom settle within her. With a final glance at the shimmering pond, Luna spread her wings and soared back into the sky. The moon was still high above, casting its gentle light on the forest below. As Luna flew back to her nest, she felt a deep sense of gratitude for the peace and quiet that the night brought. She understood now that the silence was not something to be disturbed, but something to be cherished. A gift from the stars, a moment of calm in the midst of the world's chaos. When Luna returned to her nest, she nestled into the soft branches, her wings folded around her. The stillness of the night surrounded her, and she closed her eyes, feeling the quiet magic of the forest wash over her. In the silence, she found a sense of peace, knowing that she was a part of something much bigger than herself. The keeper of the silent nights had entrusted her with the secret of the forest, and now it was her responsibility to protect that peace, just as the keeper did. As Luna drifted off to sleep, the stars above whispered their stories, and the world below settled into a peaceful slumber. And in that moment, Luna understood that sometimes the greatest magic lies in the quiet, in the moments of stillness that allow us to listen, reflect, and dream. The sky had turned a deep shade of purple as the last rays of the setting sun melted into the horizon. The stars slowly began to twinkle, and the cool night air swept through the quiet town. Among the houses and fields there was one special place, the old, forgotten railway station. People had long stopped taking the trains, and the platform was empty most of the time. But every night, right as the world settled into its peaceful slumber, something magical happened. The night train to Dreamland arrived. The train was no ordinary train. It was a beautiful, gleaming locomotive, its silver body shining like the moonlight. Its carriages were made of soft, plush clouds, and its wheels shimmered like stardust. It didn't make any noise as it arrived. No screeching metal or hissing steam. It was as quiet as a whisper in the wind. It had no conductor, no tickets, no schedule. The only thing it carried was dreams. The townspeople had long forgotten about the night train. But for one special child, it was a nightly adventure. Her name was Sophie, a small girl with big, bright eyes full of wonder. Sophie lived in a small cottage on the edge of town, where the fields stretched endlessly and the trees whispered secrets to those who listened closely. Every night, just as the world outside grew silent, Sophie would sneak out of her bed, wrap herself in a cozy blanket, and tiptoe to the train station. She had discovered the night train when she was younger by accident. One night, she had woken up with a curious feeling, a sense that something magical was about to happen. She had slipped out of her house and wandered to the station, only to find the train waiting for her. Ever since that night, she had made it her secret ritual to board the train and travel to Dreamland. Tonight, just as the stars twinkled brightly overhead, Sophie felt the familiar tug in her heart. She knew it was time for her nightly adventure. She climbed out of bed and, with a quiet yawn, slipped on her slippers and wrapped herself in her softest blanket. As she made her way down the stairs, her heart raced with excitement. She couldn't wait to see where the night train would take her tonight. The train station was quiet as Sophie approached, its wooden platform bathed in the soft glow of the moon. As always, the train was waiting for her, its doors gently swinging open. Sophie smiled to herself as she stepped aboard, the soft, cloud-like carriages enveloping her in warmth. The train hummed softly as it began to move, taking her far from the quiet town and into the night sky. The train ride was always peaceful, a quiet journey through the stars. Sophie loved the way the night sky stretched endlessly above her, with stars twinkling like diamonds and the moon glowing softly in the distance. The train floated effortlessly through the air, its wheels barely touching the ground as if it were gliding on a river of dreams. Sophie curled up in her seat, wrapping her blanket around her tighter as she looked out of the window. The world below seemed so far away, a blur of lights and shadows. She could see the distant mountains, the sleepy forests, and the quiet fields of her town, all bathed in the soft light of the moon. As the train journeyed on, Sophie felt her eyes grow heavy. She knew that Dreamland was getting closer, and with that thought, the train began to slow, gently easing to a stop in a beautiful, magical land. The land of dreams was a place unlike any other. It was a world full of color and wonder, where the trees were made of candy, the rivers sparkled like gold, and the clouds were soft and fluffy, like giant pillows. Sophie stepped off the train, her feet sinking into the soft, pastel-colored grass. She took a deep breath, the air sweet and fragrant with the scent of blooming flowers. Everything here was perfect, peaceful, quiet, and beautiful. It was a place where anything was possible, where dreams could come to life. She wandered through the magical land, her eyes wide with wonder. She saw animals that could talk, trees that played music when the wind blew, and flowers that glowed in the dark. Everything in Dreamland was alive, bursting with magic and possibility. Sophie smiled to herself, knowing that she was in the place where all the dreams she had ever had came from. As she explored, she came across a little house made of gingerbread. The roof was dusted with powdered sugar, and the walls were decorated with candy canes. Sophie knocked on the door, and it opened to reveal a kind old woman with a warm smile. "Hello, my dear," the woman said, her voice soft like a lullaby. "Would you like to rest here for a while? I have warm milk and cookies, and the stars are especially bright tonight." Sophie nodded, feeling tired from her journey. She stepped inside where the smell of fresh cookies filled the air. The old woman handed her a glass of milk and a plate of cookies, and they sat by the fire, talking softly about the wonders of Dreamland. Sophie loved hearing the old woman's stories, tales of magical creatures, faraway places, and dreams that came true. As the night wore on, Sophie began to feel the pull of sleep. She knew it was time to return to the train and head back home. The old woman hugged her tightly and whispered, "Remember, dear, Dreamland is always here for you. You only need to close your eyes and believe." Sophie smiled and thanked the kind woman before leaving her gingerbread house and heading back. To the train. The night train was waiting for her, ready to take her back to the real world. As she boarded the train, she settled into her seat, her heart full of happiness and wonder. The train slowly began to move, taking her back through the starry sky. As the night train floated back toward the sleepy town, Sophie felt her eyelids grow heavy. She knew that when she woke up in her bed, the memories of Dreamland would stay with her, just like they always did. The night train to Dreamland would be there for her night after night to carry her away on adventures filled with magic, wonder, and the beauty of dreams. With a contented sigh, Sophie closed her eyes and drifted off to sleep, knowing that no matter where she went or what she dreamed, the night train would always be waiting for her, ready to take her to Dreamland once again. Long ago, in a time before the stars knew how to twinkle, the night sky was a vast, silent void. The moon hung gently above, casting its soft, silver glow across the world. But the stars, they were nothing more than tiny, glowing dots scattered across the darkness, shining steadily but without the magic that would later make them twinkle. The stars were all very different from each other, each one with its own shape and color, but none of them were quite happy with how they appeared. Some felt too dim and wanted to shine brighter, while others felt they were not seen enough. They gathered together one night after the moon had whispered a lullaby to the sleepy earth below to discuss their problems. "I wish I could shine brighter like the moon," said a small, pale star, trembling as it spoke. "I feel so weak compared to the moon's glow." "I wish I could shine in many colors," sighed a golden star, "but all I have is my golden light. It's too simple." "I want to be bigger," cried a star with a soft red glow. "If I were larger, maybe people would notice me more." The stars began to compare their lights and felt even worse. Each one wished for something different, but none of them understood how to achieve it. The quiet and stillness of the night sky only made their sadness grow. That night, as the stars continued to discuss their woes, a wise and ancient voice echoed through the vastness of the sky. It was the great Star Keeper, a glowing, majestic being that resided beyond the stars themselves. "Why do you mourn, little stars?" The Starkeeper's voice boomed softly, like the sound of a distant thunderstorm. The stars fell silent, unsure of how to respond. They had never heard such a voice before, and it filled them with awe. "Great Starkeeper," said the smallest star, "we are not happy with how we shine. Some of us feel too dim, others too bright, and others too small. We wish we could be as beautiful as the moon." The great Starkeeper chuckled, a deep and comforting sound that vibrated through the heavens. "Ah, little stars," the keeper said, "you do not need to be like the moon. The moon has its own magic, but it is not the only one. Your twinkling will come in time, but you must learn to embrace who you are." "But how?" asked the golden star, its light flickering nervously. "By dancing," replied the great Starkeeper. "You must learn to dance with the winds, to spin with the light, and to let the universe's rhythm guide you. When you do this, your light will not only grow brighter, but it will dance with the universe itself, creating the twinkle you seek." The stars were puzzled. "Dance?" they asked in unison, confused by the Starkeeper's words. "Yes," the Starkeeper replied. "The dance is not one you can see, but one you can feel. It is the rhythm of the universe. Every time the wind brushes against you, every time a cloud floats past, every time the earth below stirs, you must learn to respond. Twinkling is not something you can control. It happens when you let go and allow the universe to lead." The stars were still unsure, but they decided to try. The next night, as the winds blew gently across the sky, they decided to follow the great star-keeper's advice. They let the wind move them, swaying slightly in the direction it pulled them. They allowed the clouds to pass by without trying to hold still. They twinkled for the first time, not by trying to shine brighter or bigger, but by simply following the rhythm of the universe. At first, it was just a small flicker. One star twinkled faintly, and then another. The sky slowly began to light up as the stars let go of their worries and embraced the dance. As they responded to the universe, they started to shine brighter, but also in different, shimmering colors. Some sparkled like diamonds, others like rubies, and still others like sapphires. Every star had a unique twinkle, a rhythm all its own. As they danced, the stars began to realize something important. They didn't need to be like the moon. They didn't need to be the biggest or the brightest. What made them special was their uniqueness and their ability to respond to the world around them. And so, from that night forward, the stars twinkled in the sky, each one with its own rhythm, its own pattern, and its own special glow. They learned to embrace their differences and realized that it wasn't about being the same. It was about dancing with the universe and letting the beauty of life shine through them. Now, whenever you look up at the night sky, you can see the stars twinkling, each one telling its own story. The stars are no longer just tiny, steady lights. They are dancers in the sky, responding to the winds, to the clouds, to the moon, and to everything around them. Each twinkle is a reminder that sometimes, to shine, you need to let go, dance with the world, and embrace who you truly are. And that, dear reader, is how the stars learn to twinkle. In a quiet meadow surrounded by whispering trees and sleepy hills, there lived a tiny mouse named Milo, with soft gray fur and the gentlest eyes that sparkled like stardust. Every evening, when the world grew quiet and the sun dipped below the golden horizon, Milo would leave his cozy burrow under the roots of an old elm tree and climb onto a smooth, flat stone just outside. This stone was his thinking spot, his dreaming place, where he'd gaze up at the sky and wonder about the velvet night that slowly unfurled like a soft blanket above the world. Milo was not like the other mice who spent their evenings storing food or playing hide-and-seek. Milo was a dreamer, a quiet soul who believed the sky had secrets and stories to tell. One particular night, when the air was cool and the wind was carrying whispers through the grass, Milo noticed something unusual. The sky above was darker than usual, deeper and more mysterious, almost as if it were waiting for something to happen. The stars, instead of shining all at once, blinked on one by one, slowly revealing a pattern that looked like a giant paw print made of light. Milo's heart skipped a beat. Was it a sign? Was the sky trying to speak to him? He twitched his whiskers, tilted his head, and listened. A hush fell over the meadow, and then, as if on cue, a soft humming floated down from above. It wasn't like any sound Milo had ever heard. It was warm and deep, like the hum of a lullaby sung by a mother star. As he looked up, the stars within the paw print began to shimmer in waves, and then a voice as smooth as moonlight spoke, not aloud, but within Milo's heart. "Little watcher, gentle dreamer," it said, "you see what others do not. You listen when the world is quiet. Tonight, you are invited to journey into the velvet sky." Before Milo could respond, a soft beam of silver light wrapped around him like a ribbon and gently lifted him off the stone. He didn't feel afraid. It felt like being carried in a warm breeze. Higher and higher he floated, past the tree branches, above the clouds and into the midnight sky where stars whispered and comets tiptoed. Milo blinked in amazement as he found himself standing on a floating pathway made of mist and sparkles, winding its way through the stars. Around him were creatures of all shapes and sizes, glowing owls, shimmering foxes, and butterflies made of light, walking slowly along the path. "Where are we going?" Milo asked a fox with eyes like twin galaxies. The fox smiled. "To the dream nest, where all the dreams of the world are woven together." As they continued walking, Milo saw things he never imagined. Clouds shaped like castles floating in moonlight, rivers of starlight flowing upside down, and gentle winds that carried forgotten lullabies. The deeper they went into the sky, the softer everything became. Time moved differently here. Milo felt both wide awake and deeply sleepy, like being wrapped in a bedtime story. Eventually, they reached a glowing hill made of stardust, and on top of it sat a giant nest, larger than anything Milo had seen, woven from silver threads and feathers of forgotten wishes. Inside the nest sat a creature with wings like the Milky Way and a voice like rustling dreams. It was the Dreamweaver. "Welcome, Milo," the Dreamweaver said kindly. "You have been chosen to help weave tonight's dreams." Milo's tiny paws trembled. "Me? But I'm just a little mouse." The Dreamweaver leaned closer, her eyes filled with galaxies. "And that is exactly why. You carry gentle wonder in your heart, and dreams grow best in quiet hearts." With that, Milo was given a small bundle of glowing threads, soft as mist and bright as hope. He carefully wove them into the nest, one by one, each thread forming a dream to send down to the sleeping world, dreams of flying fish in puddles, of talking stars and giggling trees, of children floating with balloons made of moonlight. As Milo wove, he felt his own dreams becoming clearer, his heart lighter and his spirit fuller. When the last thread was placed, the Dreamweaver smiled and said, "It is time." A hush fell again, and then the nest glowed brilliantly. Dreams rose into the air like tiny lanterns and floated down to earth, twinkling like fireflies. The sky sighed in contentment, and the pathway of stars began to fade. The silver ribbon returned, gently wrapping around Milo and carrying him back down to his meadow, where the stone was still warm from the day's sun. As he settled down on it once more, Milo felt different. He had seen the velvet sky's secret, walked its shimmering paths, and helped create dreams for the world. His eyes blinked sleepily, and as he curled up under the first light of dawn, he whispered to the wind, "Thank you." The stars above twinkled once more, not with their usual sparkle, but with a knowing wink, as if to say, "You are always welcome, little dreamer." And from that night on, whenever Milo looked up at the velvet sky, he didn't just see stars, he saw possibilities, whispers, lullabies, and all the dreams waiting to be dreamed. In a little village nestled between sleepy hills and slow-waving trees, there was a small house with blue windows and a red chimney, and inside that house lived a kind little girl named Elsie, who had the most unusual pillow in the whole world. A pillow that told stories. It wasn't a fancy pillow, not shiny or colorful, just soft and round and covered in light cotton with little stars stitched on the corners. But what made it special was what it did when the night fell and Elsie's head rested on it. Each evening, after she brushed her teeth and tiptoed into her room with her favorite book clutched in one hand and a sleepy yawn following her into bed, she would lie down, close her eyes, and wait. As soon as her head touched the pillow, a warm hush would fall across the room like a cozy blanket, and a voice as soft as a feather would begin to speak, not out loud, but inside her thoughts, gently and calmly like someone whispering from inside a dream. "Would you like a story tonight?" it always asked, and Elsie, eyes closed and lips curved in a smile, would nod. The pillow never told the same story twice. Some nights it spoke of a cloud that wanted to be a snowflake, or a squirrel who learned to sing lullabies to the moon, or a kitten who rowed a paper boat across a puddle sea. Other nights, it told magical tales of forgotten stars who had names and feelings, or of lonely lanterns who waited patiently on rooftops for someone to wish upon them. One special night, the pillow told a story that felt different, deeper, more, alive than any before. Tonight, it whispered, is the story of a dream that almost never came true. And so, with the soft rustle of wind outside the window and the peaceful hum of crickets far away, Elsie listened closely. The story began with a child not too different from herself, someone with big eyes full of questions and a heart that wished for something more, someone who often stared at the night sky wondering if dreams were real or just soft thoughts that faded by morning. This child, the pillow said, found a hidden place in the attic one rainy afternoon. An old trunk filled with tiny items wrapped in paper. A feather, a broken compass, a glass marble, a small clock without hands. They seemed ordinary, but when touched, each one revealed a secret, a memory, a wish, a lost piece of someone's forgotten bedtime dream. The child, brave and curious, learned to listen to these items, to hear the stories they held, and one night, much like tonight, the child placed the feather under her own pillow and dreamed of flying above a silver forest, meeting owls that read books aloud and trees that whispered names of every child who ever felt lonely. As the pillow spoke, Elsie's breathing slowed and her limbs relaxed under her blanket, her mind painting every word into images she could almost touch. The voice went on to explain that this child grew up and gave her magical pillow to someone who needed it next, someone who didn't believe in stories or dreams or magic, someone who had forgotten how to fall asleep smiling. And so the pillow continued its journey, finding new dreamers every few years, sharing its never-ending library of gentle, glowing tales with children who needed a friend at night. You are the pillow's dreamer now, the voice whispered, and one day, you too will pass me on to someone who needs to remember the magic of quiet nights. Elsie's eyes fluttered, not quite asleep, but drifting like a leaf in soft air, her heart full of wonder and her imagination wide open like a night sky. She wondered if the stories were real, if the stars knew what the pillow said, if the moon sometimes leaned close to listen. She wondered what it meant to be part of a story, to be remembered not just by people, but by dreams themselves. The pillow continued, telling her about a hidden garden where stories grew like flowers, each petal filled with a memory, a voice, a heartbeat of someone who once imagined something beautiful. It told her that every time she laughed in a dream or whispered thank you to the stars, a new flower bloomed in that garden. And somewhere in that secret garden, a little sign now stood with her name on it. Elsie, the girl who listened. By now, the pillow's voice had grown even softer, like a hum wrapped in a hug, and Elsie's thoughts became slower, dreamier, like waves folding into one another. The final words the pillow spoke that night were not part of a story but a wish. May your heart stay curious, may your dreams stay gentle, and may your stories travel farther than you ever will. And with that, Elsie sighed a happy sigh, her fingers curled softly under her chin, her room silent and still except for the breeze playing with her curtain. Outside, the moon peeked through the window, casting a silver glow on her resting face, and the stars blinked slowly, as if nodding in agreement. Far away, in that hidden garden the pillow spoke of, another flower opened under the velvet sky, glowing faintly with the light of a story well told. The pillow, silent now, waited for morning, holding the dreams of one little girl safely inside its soft cotton heart. Ellie was a curious little girl with big eyes that sparkled like the morning dew, and every night just before bedtime, she would climb into her cozy bed with her favorite stuffed bunny named Tumbles tucked under her arm and her thoughts filled with wonder, for she had always believed that sleep was not just a time to rest, but a magical doorway to faraway lands. And on one particularly quiet evening, when the stars were stretching across the sky and the moon was humming its soft lullaby, something unusual happened. Her yawn, long and sleepy, floated gently from her lips and didn't disappear like usual, but instead turned into a glittery cloud that hovered over her bed and whispered her name in a voice that felt like a hug. And before she could even blink, the room began to shimmer. The walls faded into mist, and the next thing she knew, Ellie found herself standing on a winding path made of soft feathers, leading her into the magical land of Yon, a place whispered about in dreams but never seen by waking eyes, where yawns turned into breezes, sighs became songs, and bedtime. Giggles echoed like stardust in the sky, and as she walked forward, guided by a gentle breeze and a string of yawns floating like bubbles, she saw cozy creatures curled on cloud hammocks, sleepy owls wearing reading glasses, drowsy foxes sipping warm milk from teacups, and yawning kittens curled into flour, petals that blinked slowly with the rhythm of dreams, and a sleepy old turtle wearing a robe made of blankets greeted her at the gate and said, "Welcome, Ellie. We've been waiting for you," and handed her a map that glowed softly and showed all the dream trails winding through the land, Snugglewood Forest, Pillow Pond, and the Hill of Gentle Thoughts, and told her she must follow the trail of the Dreamlight deer, who would guide her to the center of the land of Yon, where the sleepy star rested and shared dreams with those who listened. So Ellie, with tumbles in one hand and her glowing map in the other, tiptoed along a path made of moonbeams and feather dust, meeting a yawn-collecting squirrel named Wink, a yawning bear who painted skies with starlight, and a group of whispering willows that told stories to the wind, and every step she took made her lids a little heavier and her heart a little lighter, for the magic of the land of Yon wasn't in excitement, but in the deep, gentle calm that wrapped around everything, like a warm night breeze. And when she finally reached the dream meadow, she saw the sleepy star, a soft, glowing light that pulsed like a heartbeat, resting inside a nest of clouds, and the Dreamlight deer bowed its head and said, "You have arrived, Ellie. The dream has found you." And the sleepy star whispered a lullaby without words, a song that wrapped around her thoughts and turned them into dreams, soft ones filled with kindness and colors and the laughter of stars. And as she sat beside it, she felt a yawn coming from deep within, not a tired one, but one that said, "You are home now." And slowly, very slowly, the land of Yon faded into a glowing mist. The feather path disappeared, and Ellie found herself tucked warmly under her blanket once again, tumbles snug against her cheek, and though her eyes fluttered shut and her breathing slowed, she smiled because she knew that the journey had been real, that the sleepy star had touched her dreams, and that the land of Yon was always just one gentle yawn away. In the heart of the forest, where the trees whispered secrets and the moonlight danced on the leaves, lived a little owl named Ollie. He was unlike any other owl in the forest because, while his brothers and sisters would snuggle close every night, drifting off into peaceful slumber with the soft hoots of the older owls, Ollie could never seem to sleep. Every night, as the stars twinkled above, Ollie would lie wide-eyed on his favorite branch, staring at the sky, unable to close his eyes like the others. His family would rest peacefully, their chests rising and falling with deep, steady breaths, but Ollie remained awake, watching the world around him. At first, Ollie didn't mind. He thought maybe he just wasn't tired yet, and the night was full of wonders. The moon was so bright, and the stars sparkled like tiny diamonds scattered across a blanket of velvet. The gentle breeze sang through the leaves, and the distant croak of frogs echoed from the pond. Everything seemed magical, and Ollie didn't want to miss a single moment. But as the nights passed, Ollie began to wonder why he couldn't sleep like his siblings. He asked his older brother, Oliver, Why do you sleep so soundly every night?" Oliver opened one sleepy eye and yawned. "It's easy, Ollie. I just close my eyes and let the quiet take over. You should try it sometime." But Ollie couldn't. He tried closing his eyes, curling up like his siblings, but his mind kept racing. There were so many things to think about, so many sounds to listen to. What was that rustling in the bushes? What was the fox doing at the edge of the forest? Was the moon always in the same spot? Or did it move like the stars? What if something exciting happened while he was asleep and he missed it? One night, as Ollie sat on his branch, his mind full of questions, a gentle voice called out from below. It was Grandma Owlia, the oldest and wisest owl in the forest. She was perched on a low branch of a nearby tree, her feathers ruffled by the cool evening air. "Ollie," she called softly, "I see you're still awake. Why don't you come down here and keep me company?" Ollie fluttered down to the branch beside Grandma Owlia. She smiled warmly at him and asked, "What's on your mind, little one?" "I can't sleep, Grandma," Ollie confessed. "I don't know why. My eyes are tired, but my mind is full of thoughts. I want to sleep like everyone else, but I just can't seem to." Grandma Owlia chuckled softly. "Ah, I see. You have a busy mind, my dear. But let me tell you something. Sometimes the best things in life come when we stop trying so hard." Ollie blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" Grandma Owlia nodded toward the sky. "Look at the moon. It doesn't force itself to shine. It simply rises, glowing gently, just as it is. And the stars? They don't struggle to twinkle. They just do. Sometimes, when we stop trying so hard to sleep, sleep will come on its own." Ollie thought about Grandma Owlia's words, but he wasn't sure he understood. "But how do I stop trying?" Grandma Owlia smiled. "You must trust the night, Ollie. The night will take care of you, just as it does for everyone else." The next night, Ollie tried Grandma Owlia's advice. He perched on his branch, closed his eyes, and listened to the sounds of the forest. He heard the wind rustling the leaves, the distant croak of frogs, and the soft hoots of the other owls. But this time, he didn't try to force himself to sleep. He just listened and let his thoughts drift, like leaves floating on a gentle stream. Still, sleep didn't come. The following nights were the same. Ollie tried to relax, but his mind was still too busy. He began to worry. What if he never learned to sleep? What if he was the only owl in the forest who stayed awake forever, didn't want to be different? He wanted to feel the same peaceful rest his family enjoyed every night. One evening, Ollie wandered further into the forest than he had ever gone before. The air was cool, and the trees whispered around him as he flitted from branch to branch. Suddenly, he heard a soft humming sound coming from the deepest part of the forest. Intrigued, Ollie followed the sound until he came upon a quiet clearing. There, beneath a large oak tree, was an old, wise-looking owl named Orion. He was humming softly to himself, his eyes closed as he swayed gently in the breeze. "Excuse me, Mr. Orion," Ollie called softly. "Why are you humming?" Orion opened one eye and smiled at Ollie. "Ah, young Ollie, I see you're still awake. It's not easy to sleep when your mind is restless, is it?" Ollie nodded, eagerly. "Exactly. I don't know what to do." Orion chuckled. "It's simple, really. You must learn to trust your own rhythm. You see, every owl has their own time to sleep. You don't have to follow anyone else's schedule. When you are ready, sleep will come. You just have to let go and allow it." Ollie thought about Orion's words. It sounded so simple, yet he couldn't help but feel frustrated. But how can I trust sleep when it doesn't come when I want it to? Orion smiled again and patted the branch beside him. Sometimes, the best things in life come when we stop chasing them. Close your eyes, Ollie, and just listen to the world around you. Sleep isn't something you can chase. It's something you welcome with an open heart. That night, Ollie returned to his favorite branch and sat quietly, just as Orion had suggested. He closed his eyes, but this time, instead of trying to make sleep come, he simply relaxed and listened to the sounds of the night. He heard the soft rustling of the leaves, the gentle croak of a frog, and the wind brushing past his feathers. He didn't think about the things that worried him anymore. He just let the peacefulness of the night fill him. And then, just as Orion had said, sleep came. It wasn't forced. It wasn't rushed. It just came as gently as a soft breeze. Ollie's thoughts quieted, and his golden eyes fluttered shut. For the first time, Ollie was at peace and he slept soundly, dreaming of the stars, the moon, and the whispering trees. From that night on, Ollie no longer worried about sleep. He knew that sleep would come when it was ready, and he trusted the rhythm of the night. He still stayed awake sometimes, watching the stars and listening to the whispers of the forest, but he no longer felt like he was missing out. He had learned to trust the night, and with that trust, sleep found him every time. And so, Ollie the little owl finally learned the secret to peaceful sleep. Sometimes you have to let go and trust the world around you to take care of you. The night would always be there, ready to wrap him in its gentle embrace. Once upon a time, in a land where the stars shimmered brighter than any jewels and the moon bathed the world in its gentle light, there was a small village nestled among the rolling hills. This village was different from any other, for it was known as the Dreamers' Village. The villagers were special, for they had the rare ability to follow the path of their dreams, guided by a soft light that shone from a magical lantern that no one could quite explain. In this village lived a young girl named Luna. Luna was a dreamer, much like the rest of the villagers. She had always been fascinated by the night sky and the stories her grandmother would tell her about the magical lantern that guided the dream path. The lantern, according to the stories, would light up the path to dreams that awaited in the mysterious world beyond sleep. But there was one catch. The lantern could only be found by those who were pure of heart and had a deep desire to help others find their dreams. Luna had heard the story many times, and each time her heart would fill with hope. She wanted to find the lantern more than anything. She felt deep inside that it was her calling to help others follow their dreams, to find the path that would lead them to the life they were meant to live. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the first stars began to twinkle, Luna decided that it was time to search for the lantern. She had always wondered if it was real, or just a story to make the villagers feel connected to their dreams. But tonight, as the air smelled of night-blooming flowers and the moon hung heavy in the sky, Luna felt something different. It was as though the night was calling to her. With a small soft lantern in her hand, Luna stepped out of her little cottage and walked into the cool evening air. The village was silent, save for the rustle of the trees and the distant croak of frogs. Her heart beat a little faster as she ventured further away from the village center, where the path grew narrower and the trees taller. As she walked deeper into the forest, the stars above seemed to shine brighter, and Luna could feel the weight of her decision. The path was lit only by the soft glow of the moon and the faint light of her own lantern. She had always believed that the lantern was just a metaphor for the dreams that lived within everyone's heart. But now, as she walked beneath the towering trees, she was beginning to feel something else. A strange electric excitement in the air, as though she were being watched by unseen eyes. Minutes passed, then hours. Luna didn't know how long. She had been walking, but it felt as though time had stretched and bent around her. Her lantern flickered, casting eerie shadows on the ground, and she could hear strange, whispering sounds around her. At first, she thought it was the wind, but then the whispers began to form words, soft and melodious. "Luna. Luna." The voices called, and she could swear she could hear her name in every breeze that blew. She walked on, determined to find the lantern and the path it would reveal. Suddenly, as though the forest had opened a hidden door just for her, Luna saw a soft glow ahead. It was gentle, like the light of a star, but it wasn't in the sky. It was on the ground, shining through the trees like a golden thread leading into the unknown. She took a deep breath and followed it, her heart racing in her chest. As Luna walked closer, the path before her became clearer, and she saw something that took her breath away. There, on a small pedestal made of smooth stones, was the lantern, glowing with a soft golden light. Its frame was made of silver, intricate and beautiful, and the light inside was like no flame she had ever seen. It wasn't hot, yet it radiated warmth. It wasn't blinding, but it filled the entire area with a soothing glow. Luna's eyes widened in wonder, and she stepped closer. To the lantern, she could feel the power of the light reaching out to her, and she knew in that instant that this was the lantern that guided the dream path. But as her hand reached out to touch it, the lantern flickered. The light dimmed for just a moment, and then a soft voice echoed through the forest. "Only those with a pure heart and a deep desire to help others may hold this lantern," the voice said, gentle but firm. Luna paused, her fingers hovering just above the lantern. She had always wanted to help others, to guide them to their dreams, just as she had hoped someone would guide her. But could she prove her heart was pure enough? She closed her eyes and thought of the people in her village. The children who dreamed of flying, the elders who dreamed of peace, and the people who struggled to find their purpose. Luna wanted to help them all. She wanted to help everyone find the path to their dreams, just as she had dreamed of doing her whole life. "I am ready," she whispered. "I will guide them." The lantern flickered again, and then, with a gentle pulse, the light grew brighter. The golden glow bathed the forest in a soft, welcoming warmth. Luna reached out, her fingers brushing against the lantern's cool surface. As soon as she touched it, the light engulfed her, and she felt a sudden surge of warmth and energy flow through her. The world around her seemed to shift, and for the briefest moment she felt as though she were standing in a vast, dreamlike realm. The sky above was a deep, endless blue, and the stars twinkled like diamonds. The ground beneath her feet was soft, like clouds, and the trees stretched high into the heavens, their branches reaching out like arms to embrace her. Then, just as quickly as it had come, the vision faded, and Luna was standing back in the forest, the lantern glowing softly in her hands. She looked around, and to her surprise, the path before her was now clearly lit with the same golden light. The trees parted, forming a wide, welcoming trail that led her back to the village. But now, she knew that this was the dream path, the path to her own dreams and the dreams of others. With the lantern in her hands, Luna returned to her village. The villagers gathered around her, their eyes wide with wonder as they saw the soft glow of the lantern in her hands. Luna smiled and walked through the village, the lantern's light guiding her way. Each step she took lit the path for others, and she knew that her purpose had been found. From that night on, Luna became known as the Dream Keeper. The lantern never dimmed in her hands, and every time someone in the village needed guidance, Luna would take the lantern and walk the dream path, showing others the way to their dreams. And so, Luna learned that sometimes the path to our dreams isn't always clear at first, but with patience, kindness, and a heart full of love, the way will always reveal itself. The lantern had shown her the path, and now she would help others find their own. In the heart of a quiet, sleepy forest, nestled far from the bustling noise of the world, there was a magical place where the fireflies glowed like tiny stars and dreams began to take flight. This forest, known only to a few, was a sacred ground, where the wonders of the world came alive under the soft, silver glow of the moon. It was a place where dreams were born and carried by the gentle breeze, waiting to be caught by those who sought them. At the edge of this mystical forest, there lived a young girl named Amelia. She was kind-hearted, curious, and always seemed to be looking up at the stars as if they were speaking to her. Amelia had heard stories from the elders about the glowing fireflies, tales of how they were the keepers of dreams, guiding those who were brave enough to follow the trail of light they left behind. But there was one thing the elders didn't tell her. The fireflies didn't just guide dreams, they carried them. Amelia had always wanted to find this magical place, to be part of the wonders the fireflies whispered about. She had heard the stories, yes, but she never truly believed they were real. That was until the night the fireflies began to glow in her own backyard. It was a warm summer evening, and Amelia had just finished helping her grandmother with the garden. The sky was clear, with the stars beginning to twinkle softly in the distance, and the air smelled sweet with the scent of blooming jasmine. As she stepped out of the house, ready to head inside for bed, she noticed something unusual. A soft, golden glow flickered near the trees at the edge of the yard. At first, Amelia thought it was just her imagination, but as she looked closer, she saw that it was a swarm of fireflies, their lights shining like little lanterns in the dark. They danced in the air, twirling in the breeze, casting their glow across the ground. Amelia's heart raced with excitement. Could this be the moment she had been waiting for? She had heard of the fireflies that led people to the heart of the forest, where dreams began. Could they be guiding her now? Without hesitation, Amelia decided to follow them. She knew that this was her chance, the chance she had always dreamed of. She stepped quietly into the darkened forest, her feet brushing the soft grass beneath her. The fireflies illuminated the path ahead, their tiny lights glowing like stars in the night. Amelia felt a sense of wonder rise within her, as though she were walking into a world filled with endless possibilities. As she walked deeper into the forest, the fireflies fluttered around her, their soft light growing brighter as she moved forward. The trees seemed to part for her, their branches swaying gently as if welcoming her into their midst. The sound of crickets and nightbirds filled the air, creating a peaceful symphony that lulled her into a sense of calm. Soon, the path before her became clearer, and she saw that the fireflies were leading her to a small clearing at the center of the forest. In the center of the clearing was a large, ancient tree with silver leaves that shimmered in the moonlight. At its base, a small stream flowed, its waters glistening like liquid diamonds. The fireflies gathered around the tree, their glow so bright now that it lit up the entire clearing. Amelia's heart beat with anticipation as she approached the tree. She felt a connection to it, as though it were calling to her. The fireflies settled around her, their lights pulsing gently in rhythm with her heartbeat. She knelt by the stream, and for a moment, all was still. The only sound was the soft babbling of the water and the gentle rustling of the leaves. Then, as if in answer to her unspoken thoughts, the tree began to glow. A soft, golden light enveloped the trunk, and from within its bark, a beautiful, shimmering flower began to bloom. Its petals were made of silver and gold, and they sparkled in the light like the stars in the sky. Amelia's eyes widened in awe. This was it. This was the heart of the forest, where the fireflies came to rest, and where dreams began. The flower slowly unfurled, and in its center, a small, glowing orb appeared. It floated gently above the tree, its light warm and inviting. Amelia reached out slowly, her fingers trembling with excitement, and as she touched the orb, a flood of images filled her mind. She saw herself soaring through the sky, dancing among the stars. She saw the faces of the people she loved, smiling and happy, and she saw a world where everyone's dreams were fulfilled. For a moment, Amelia was lost in the visions. The fireflies surrounded her, their lights dancing with joy as they watched her. She realized that the orb was not just a symbol of dreams. It was a part of her own dream, a dream she had always carried within her heart. As the visions began to fade, the orb gently floated back to the center of the flower and the tree's glow dimmed. The fireflies slowly began to disperse, their light fading into the distance. Amelia sat in the clearing, her heart full of the dreams she had seen and the promise of what was to come. She knew now that the forest, the fireflies, and the dreams they carried were real. They weren't just stories, they were waiting to be discovered. Amelia stood up and smiled. She knew that she had been given a gift that would change her life. The fireflies had shown her the way, and now it was her turn to share that gift with the world. She made a promise to herself that night. She would help others find their dreams, just as she had found hers. With the fireflies lighting her path, Amelia walked back through the forest and returned home. The forest was still, the only sound the whisper of the wind in the trees. But Amelia knew that the fireflies were still with her, guiding her forward, lighting the way to the dreams she was destined to fulfill. And so, the young girl from the sleepy village became known as the Dream Keeper. She shared the story of the fireflies and the dreams that began in their light with everyone she met. People came from far and wide to see the magical place where fireflies glowed and dreams took flight, and many found their own path to happiness and fulfillment. From that day on, the forest remained a sacred place where dreams could begin. And as the fireflies continued to glow, so too did the hopes and dreams of those who dared to follow their hearts. In the heart of a lush green forest, where the air was always sweet and the ground soft beneath the feet, there stood an old tree, known by all the creatures of the forest as the Sleepy Tree. The tree was unlike any other. Its bark was soft and weathered, its branches bent low as if they were always heavy with the weight of a long, tiring day. Yet, despite its apparent age, the Sleepy Tree was full of life, and there was something magical about it. Every evening, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, the Sleepy Tree would begin to hum a soft, gentle song. This song was unlike anything the creatures had ever heard. It was soothing, peaceful, and seemed to wrap around the forest like a warm blanket, making everything feel calm and safe. The animals would gather around the Sleepy Tree at twilight, their ears twitching in excitement, their eyes filled with anticipation. The song of the Sleepy Tree was something they had grown to love, something that made them feel peaceful and at ease as night fell. The birds would settle into the branches, the rabbits and deer would nestle in the soft grass beneath its roots, and the tiny insects would dance in the glow of the fireflies, all listening intently to the Sleepy Tree's song. The song of the Sleepy Tree had the power to calm even the most restless hearts. When the winds were too strong or the storms too frightening, the animals would huddle together near the Sleepy Tree, its gentle melody filling the air and giving them the courage to face the night. It was said that the song carried magic, a magic that helped the creatures of the forest sleep soundly, free from fear or worry. One quiet evening, as the stars began to twinkle in the sky, a young fox named Oliver wandered into the forest, drawn by the sweet melody of the Sleepy Tree's song. He had heard tales of the magical tree from the older animals, but he had never seen it for himself. His curiosity led him deep into the forest, his paws quiet on the forest floor, his eyes wide with wonder. As Oliver approached the Sleepy Tree, he was awestruck by its beauty. The tree seemed to glow softly in the moonlight, its branches swaying gently in time with the song it was singing. The fireflies danced around the tree, their tiny lights twinkling like stars in the night sky. It was a sight to behold, a peaceful, almost dreamlike scene. Oliver sat down beneath the tree, his tail curled around his paws, and listened. The melody was soft, but full of warmth. The tree's song told stories of long summer days, of gentle rains, and of the comforting embrace of sleep. It was a song that made everything feel right, as if all the worries of the world melted away with each note. The young fox closed his eyes and let the song wash over him. He had never felt so at peace before. The song seemed to reach deep inside him, soothing the restlessness that often kept him awake at night. He let out a contented sigh and lay down beneath the tree, the sound of the melody lulling him into a deep, peaceful sleep. As the night passed, the sleepy tree continued to sing its gentle song, its branches swaying in the cool night breeze. The forest creatures, too, fell into a deep sleep, their dreams filled with the peaceful melodies of the tree. The moon rose higher in the sky, and the stars twinkled brightly above, but everything below was calm, wrapped in the soothing magic of the sleepy tree's song. The next morning, when the first rays of the sun began to peek through the trees, Oliver woke up, feeling refreshed and full of energy. The sleepy tree's song had worked its magic, and for the first time in a long while, Oliver felt rested and ready to face the day. He looked up at the tree, grateful for its gift of sleep, and gave a small nod of thanks. From that day on, Oliver would visit the sleepy tree every evening, finding comfort in the tree's song. He would listen to the gentle melody and let it guide him into a peaceful sleep, free from the worries that had once kept him awake. And every time he woke up, he would feel refreshed and full of energy, ready to start another day. The sleepy tree's song became a treasured part of life in the forest. The animals knew that no matter what challenges the day had brought, they could always find peace and rest beneath the tree's branches. The tree's gentle song would always be there, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was always a place for peace, a place where dreams could grow and where sleep could heal the heart. And so, the sleepy tree continued to sing its soothing song every night, filling the forest with peace and tranquility. Its song would forever be a part of the forest's magic, and the creatures of the forest would always carry the gift of restful sleep in their hearts, thanks to the gentle melody of the sleepy tree. Every evening, as the stars began to twinkle in the sky, a little girl named Nina would sit by her window and look out at the vast, dark sky. She had always loved the nighttime, the peaceful quiet, the soft glow of the moon, and the way the stars sparkled like little diamonds were all things that made her feel calm and content. But there was one thing that made the night even more magical for Nina: her nighttime wishes. Nina believed that the night was a special time when anything was possible. Every night before she went to bed, she would whisper her wishes into the cool evening breeze. She had learned from her grandmother that the stars were magic, and if you made a wish when they shone the brightest, it had a chance of coming true. So, each evening, Nina would close her eyes and think of all the things she hoped for: a new doll, a pet puppy, the ability to fly, and sometimes she would wish for something more meaningful, like a world full of kindness or a happy day with her family. One night, as she sat on her windowsill looking out at the sky, Nina noticed something unusual. The stars were shining even brighter than usual. It was as if they were winking at her, as if they knew that tonight was going to be different. Nina smiled and whispered her wish into the night, just like she always did. But tonight, she made an extra wish, one that she had never made before. "I wish for a friend to share my nighttime wishes with," Nina said softly, her heart full of hope. No sooner had the words left her lips than she felt a gentle breeze brush her cheeks, and a soft voice answered her from the shadows outside her window. "I think your wish has been heard," said the voice. Nina turned, startled. There, standing on the other side of the window, was a small, glowing figure. a tiny creature with wings that sparkled like the stars. It was a fairy, and she was smiling at Nina with a friendly twinkle in her eyes. "I'm Luna," the fairy said with a giggle. "I'm here to share your wishes tonight." Nina's eyes widened with excitement. She had always dreamed of meeting a fairy, but she never thought it would happen like this. "You can hear my wishes?" Nina asked in awe. "Of course," Luna replied with a wink. "The stars are good at listening, but sometimes it's the fairies who help make them come true." Nina's heart skipped a beat. "Are you going to help me make my wishes come true?" Luna nodded. "That's exactly what I'm here for. Tonight, we'll make your wishes magical, and you can send them to the stars together." Without another word, Luna fluttered through the window and landed on the windowsill beside Nina. The fairy was small, but her presence was filled with a soft, sparkling energy that made everything around her feel more magical. "Let's start with your first wish," Luna said, her voice gentle and sweet. "What do you want to wish for tonight?" Nina thought for a moment, then smiled. "I want to wish for kindness to fill the world." Luna raised her tiny arms to the sky, and the stars seemed to glow even brighter. "A beautiful wish," Luna said. "Let's send it to the stars." With a wave of her hand, the light from the stars gathered, and a soft, shimmering trail of light swirled around them. Nina watched in awe as the light spiraled upward, carrying her wish into the night. As the light faded into the sky, Luna turned to Nina. "Your wish is now on its way to the stars," she said, her eyes twinkling. "Now, let's make another wish. What do you want most right now?" Nina's eyes sparkled with excitement. She had thought of this wish for so long. "I wish for a pet puppy, someone to cuddle and play with every day." Luna's wings fluttered with joy. "A puppy! How wonderful!" she exclaimed. "Let's send that wish off, too." With another graceful wave of her hand, the fairy gathered the light of the stars and sent it swirling around Nina's wish. This time, the light glowed brighter, as if the stars were especially happy to hear such a heartwarming wish. As the light drifted upward, Nina's heart filled with hope, knowing that her wish was going to the stars, ready to come true one day. "One more wish," Luna said, her voice soft and knowing. "What would you wish for if you could have anything?" Nina thought for a moment. She didn't need to think long. She knew exactly what she wanted to wish for. "I wish for happiness for everyone in my family," she said, her voice full of love. "I want them to always feel joy and peace." Luna smiled warmly. "That's the most beautiful wish of all," she said, her wings shimmering in the moonlight. "Let's send it up to the stars." Once again, the fairy waved her hands and a glowing trail of light surrounded the wish. It sparkled brightly, as if the stars themselves were smiling down on Nina's kind wish. The light slowly faded into the night sky, carrying Nina's love to the farthest reaches of the universe. As the last of the light disappeared into the stars, Luna turned to Nina, her smile glowing as brightly as the stars above. "Your wishes have been heard, Nina," Luna said softly, "and I promise the stars will listen." Nina felt a warmth fill her heart, knowing that her wishes were on their way to come true. She turned to Luna, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you for helping me," she said, her voice full of joy. Luna gave a playful giggle. "It's my pleasure, Nina. But remember, the magic of the night doesn't just come from the stars or the fairies. It also comes from your heart, from your kindness and your dreams. Never stop wishing and never stop believing in magic." With that, Luna fluttered her wings and hovered in the air for a moment, her tiny glow shimmering brightly. Then, with a final wave, she soared into the sky, leaving a trail of stardust behind her. Nina watched as Luna disappeared into the night, feeling a sense of peace and wonder in her heart. She knew that her wishes were in good hands, and that the magic of the night would always be with her. As she snuggled into her bed that night, Nina closed her eyes and thought about the wishes she had sent to the stars. She could almost hear the soft hum of the stars above, listening to her dreams and sending their magic back to her. And as she drifted off to sleep, she smiled, knowing that the night was filled with endless possibilities, and that her wishes, no matter how big or small, would always be a part of the magical world of the stars. Once upon a time, in a quiet village nestled between the tall hills and the deep forest, there was a little girl named Ilara, who loved the night sky more than anything else. Every evening, as the sun slowly sank behind the mountains and the sky turned into a canvas of deep blues and purples, Ilara would gaze out of her bedroom window. She watched the stars slowly twinkle into existence and the moon rise higher into the night. There was one thing Ilara loved above all else: the moon's soft, silvery glow. It made everything feel peaceful, calm, and safe. One evening, as Ilara watched the moon shining brightly in the sky, she felt a strange pull in her heart. It wasn't like any feeling she'd had before. She felt as if the moon was calling to her, whispering her name in a soft, soothing voice. Ilara, it seemed to say, "Come closer and I'll show you something magical." Curious and a little excited, Ilara decided to follow the moon's mysterious call. She grabbed her soft woolen slippers, slipped out of her house, and tiptoed into the cool night. The air was crisp, the stars twinkling brightly, and the moon shone above her like a lantern in the sky. It seemed to shine just a little brighter tonight, casting a soft, silver light over everything in its path. Ilara followed the glow of the moon through the quiet village streets, past the houses and the trees, until she found herself standing in a small, quiet meadow. The moon hung low in the sky, and its soft glow bathed the entire meadow in its light. As she stood there, the moonlight seemed to grow even brighter. Ilara felt a warmth and comfort surround her, as if she were being hugged by the night itself. Suddenly, something magical began to happen. The moonlight gathered in the air in front of Ilara, swirling and shimmering like a gentle breeze. The light began to weave itself together, forming delicate threads of silver that shimmered in the air. Slowly, the threads began to fall, creating something beautiful. Ilara gasped as she realized what was happening before her very eyes. The moonlight was weaving itself into a blanket, a soft, glowing blanket made entirely of silver light. The blanket shimmered and sparkled, as though it were made of stars themselves. The threads of moonlight swirled and twisted together, creating a blanket that looked like the night sky itself. Ilara reached out, her hands trembling with excitement, and gently touched the soft fabric of the moonlit blanket. It was cool to the touch, but somehow warm, like the perfect embrace of the night. The moon seemed to smile down at Ilara, and she heard a soft, melodic voice in her mind, like a gentle breeze. "This blanket is for you, Ilara," it said. "It is made of the dreams of the night sky, woven with the light of the stars. It will keep you safe and comforted whenever you need it." Ilara smiled, her heart full of joy and wonder. She wrapped the blanket of moonlight around her shoulders, and as soon as she did, she felt a sense of peace that she had never known before. The blanket was soft and comforting, and the gentle glow of the moonlight made her feel safe and protected, as if nothing could harm her while she was wrapped in its warmth. With the moonlight blanket around her, Ilara felt like she was part of the sky itself, connected to the stars and the moon in a way she had never experienced before. She felt as though the universe itself was embracing her, wrapping her in its comforting glow. As she stood there in the meadow, wrapped in the blanket of moonlight, Ilara's thoughts began to drift. She imagined all the people in the world who needed comfort, who needed a sense of peace, and she wished that they could feel the same warmth and safety she felt right now. She wished that every child, every person, could have their own blanket, made of moonlight, a blanket that would keep them safe and comforted through the darkest of nights. The soft, glowing light of the moon surrounded her like a dream, and she felt as though she were floating among the stars. For a moment, everything felt perfect, and Alara knew that the night sky held a magic that could never be explained. She closed her eyes, allowing the moonlight to wrap her in its embrace, and she felt her heart slow, her worries melting away. But eventually, it was time to return. The moon slowly began to rise higher in the sky, and the soft glow of the meadow faded as the night wore on. Alara knew it was time to go back to her home, to her bed, and to her dreams. But as she began to walk back, the blanket of moonlight shimmered softly in her arms. She felt no fear, no sadness. The magic of the moon would always be with her, guiding her, protecting her, and wrapping her in its comforting glow whenever she needed it. As she made her way back through the meadow, Alara looked up at the sky one last time. The moon was still shining brightly, its light now softer, as if it had given her everything it had to offer. She smiled, feeling the warmth of the moon's magic in her heart. From that night on, Alara never felt alone. Whenever she needed comfort or peace, she would remember the blanket of moonlight and the magic of the stars. And in her heart, she knew that the moon would always be there, watching over her, sending its glow and its dreams to keep her safe, no matter where she went. As she tucked herself into bed that night, Alara held the soft, shimmering blanket of moonlight close to her heart, feeling its warmth and comfort. She closed her eyes and drifted off to sleep, knowing that the stars would always be watching over her and that the magic of the moon would guide her through every night to come. In a little house on the edge of a sleepy village, there lived a small white cat named Buttons. Buttons wasn't your ordinary cat. She had soft, snowy fur that gleamed like freshly fallen snow, and eyes that sparkled like two bright emeralds in the sun. But what made Buttons truly special wasn't just her beauty. It was her insatiable curiosity and love for adventure. Every evening, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, Buttons would sit by the window and watch the world outside transform. The sky would turn from blue to soft pinks and purples, and soon the stars would twinkle into view. While most cats would curl up and nap, Buttons would wait patiently for something magical to happen. She had a secret, something only she knew about. Just as the clock struck midnight, the garden behind her house would come to life. The Midnight Garden, as Buttons called it, was a place where time stood still, and the ordinary world seemed to fade away. The flowers bloomed with a soft glow, the trees whispered secrets in the wind, and the grass shimmered with tiny lights as if the stars had fallen to the earth. It was a magical place that could only be seen at midnight, when the world was asleep and everything felt peaceful and still. One particular evening, as the clock in the living room struck midnight, Buttons felt an extra sense of excitement. She had heard the stories of the Midnight Garden, but tonight she was determined to explore it like never before. She darted to the back door, her little paws barely making a sound on the wooden floor. She pushed the door open with her paw, and a soft breeze tickled her fur. The garden beyond was bathed in silver moonlight, and everything seemed to sparkle with an otherworldly glow. As Buttons stepped into the garden, she was immediately struck by the beauty of it all. The flowers, which usually appeared ordinary during the day, now seemed to glow with an ethereal light. The roses were a deep, velvety red, and the lavender shimmered in shades of purple that almost looked like a dream. The grass beneath her paws felt soft and cool, and the trees above her whispered softly, their leaves rustling like gentle music in the wind. But what fascinated Buttons the most were the tiny, glowing creatures that fluttered through the garden. They weren't quite fireflies, but they were small, bright, and their wings shimmered with a soft, silver glow. They danced through the air, leaving trails of light behind them, and Buttons couldn't help but chase after them, her tail flicking with excitement. As she wandered deeper into the garden, she noticed something new, a beautiful, shimmering fountain that she had never seen before. The water in the fountain sparkled like diamonds, and the sound of it trickling down was like the softest lullaby. Buttons sat beside it, mesmerized by the soft glow of the water and the peaceful atmosphere surrounding her. The fountain was surrounded by flowers that she had never seen before. Some were glowing a soft green, while others were a deep blue that seemed to capture the essence of the night sky. The petals of the flowers were delicate and translucent, almost as if they were made of moonlight itself. Buttons sniffed at them curiously, her nose twitching as she took in their sweet, otherworldly scent. Just then, she heard a rustling sound from behind the fountain. With her ears perked up, Buttons turned her head to see what it was. To her surprise, a small white rabbit appeared, its fur gleaming in the moonlight. The rabbit looked at Buttons with bright, friendly eyes and hopped over to her. "Hello, Buttons," the rabbit said in a soft, melodic voice. "I've been waiting for you." Buttons blinked in surprise. "You? You know my name?" she asked, her tail flicking in curiosity. "Of course," the rabbit replied with a smile. "I'm Luna, the guardian of the Midnight Garden. I watch over this place, making sure it remains peaceful and magical. And tonight, I have something special to show. You!" Buttons' eyes widened in excitement. "What is it?" she asked eagerly. Luna smiled again, her long ears twitching as she hopped toward the center of the garden. "Follow me, and you'll see." Buttons padded along behind Luna, her paws soft on the cool grass. They made their way to the farthest corner of the garden, where the trees were taller and the stars seemed to shine even brighter. As they reached a small clearing, Luna stopped and turned to Buttons. "This is where the heart of the garden lies," Luna said, her voice full of wonder. "It's a place where dreams are made and wishes are granted." In the center of the clearing was a large, ancient tree. Its bark was silver and its leaves shimmered like stardust. At the base of the tree, there was a large, glowing stone that seemed to pulse with a soft, rhythmic glow. The air around it was thick with magic, and Buttons could feel it in her whiskers, her paws, and deep in her heart. "Place your paw on the stone." "Buttons," Luna said softly, "the Midnight Garden has a special gift for you." Buttons, though a little nervous, stepped forward and placed her paw on the glowing stone. The moment she did, a warm, comforting feeling washed over her. It was as if the entire garden was embracing her, filling her with peace and happiness. The stone glowed brighter, and a soft voice seemed to echo in her mind. "You have been chosen, Buttons. You are the keeper of the Midnight Garden. Whenever you feel lost, lonely, or afraid, you may return here, and the magic of the garden will guide you." Buttons' heart swelled with joy. She couldn't believe it. She, a small cat, was entrusted with such an important role. She looked up at Luna, who nodded in approval. "The Midnight Garden will always be here for you, Buttons," Luna said kindly, "and now it's time for you to rest. The garden will keep you safe and warm." With one final glance at the shimmering garden, Buttons snuggled down on the soft grass beneath the silver tree, her eyes fluttering closed. The garden wrapped her in its peaceful glow, and she drifted off to sleep, knowing that no matter where her adventures would take her, she would always have a place to return to, a place where dreams were made and magic lived in every whisper of the wind. And so, under the light of the moon, with the stars watching over her, Buttons the cat found a new home in the Midnight Garden, where every night was filled with wonder and every dream was just within reach. One quiet evening, as the moon hung high in the sky, a little boy named Max lay in his bed, staring out the window. The sky was vast, and the stars were twinkling like tiny diamonds scattered across a velvet blanket. Max loved the stars. He loved how they sparkled, how they seemed so far away, yet so close, like secret friends who only appeared when the world was asleep. But tonight, Max was feeling a little different. He was feeling a little adventurous. He wondered what it would be like to hold a star in his hand, to feel its warmth and glow. He had always admired them from afar, but tonight, Max thought, maybe it was time for something more, something magical. Max tossed and turned in his bed, unable to fall. Asleep, his mind filled with thoughts of the stars. What if, just for one night, he could actually reach out and touch one? He had heard stories of people who could do such things, who could hold the stars like they were precious treasures. Maybe, just maybe, he could be one of those people. Without wasting another second, Max jumped out of bed. He was determined. He opened his window, and the cool night air rushed in, filling his room with the scent of fresh grass and the faint scent of dew. He climbed out onto the roof, careful not to make a sound, his heart pounding with excitement. The night was still, the kind of stillness that only happens when the world is quiet and waiting for something extraordinary to happen. Max looked up at the sky, searching for the perfect star. His eyes scanned the heavens, and then, like magic, he saw it. One star, brighter than all the others, shining down on him like it was waiting just for him. Max felt his heart skip a beat. It was the star he had been looking for. He could feel it calling to him, its soft, glowing light like a beacon in the darkness. It felt as if the star knew he was ready, as if it had been waiting for him all this time. Taking a deep breath, Max reached out with his hand. The star seemed to shimmer, almost as if it was alive, and just as Max's fingers brushed the sky, something incredible happened. A warm light enveloped his hand, and in the blink of an eye he was holding something small and glowing. It was a star. Max's eyes widened in disbelief. He could hardly believe what he was holding. It was soft, like a tiny ball of light, and it sparkled like a diamond. He could feel its warmth, a gentle heat that filled him with a sense of calm and peace. The star was light, yet it seemed so full of energy, so full of life. It was as though the very essence of the universe was contained within it. Max sat down on the roof, cradling the star in his hand. He could hardly contain his excitement. He had always dreamed of this moment, and now it had come true. The stars, which had once seemed so far away, were now in his hand. He wondered how long it would last. Would it burn out? Would it disappear? Or would it stay with him? A reminder of the night he touched the sky? As he sat there, gazing at the star, Max began to feel something else. It wasn't just the warmth of the star or the excitement of holding something so magical. It was a sense of connection. He felt as though the star had a message for him, something important, something that only Max could understand. He closed his eyes and listened, and in the quiet of the night, he heard a soft, gentle voice, like a whisper carried on the wind. "Do not be afraid, Max," the voice said. "You hold a piece of the universe in your hand, and though it may seem small, it is powerful. You are part of something much bigger than you can imagine. The stars are always with you, even when you cannot see them. They guide you, they watch over you, and they remind you that you are never truly alone." Max's heart swelled with emotion. He felt a tear slip down his cheek, but it wasn't from sadness. It was from the overwhelming sense of wonder and love that filled him. He wasn't just holding a star, he was holding the universe, a piece of everything that had ever been and would ever be. As the night wore on, Max sat on the roof, his hand gently cupping the star. He felt no need to rush. He knew that this moment was special, and he wanted to savor it. Eventually, as the first light of dawn began to break over the horizon, the star began to fade, its light slowly dimming. Max didn't feel sad, though. He knew that the star would always be with him, even if he couldn't hold it in his hand anymore. It would be in his heart, a reminder of the magic of the night and the power of the universe. With one final look at the glowing light in his hand, Max whispered, "Thank you." And as the star faded completely, he knew it had left something behind. Not just the memory of a magical night, but the knowledge that he was a part of something far bigger than himself, something that could never be taken away. Max climbed back into his bed, feeling peaceful and content. He closed his eyes, his hand resting gently on his chest, where he imagined the star still nestled. And as he drifted off to sleep, the stars outside twinkled brighter than ever, as though they were smiling down at him, proud to have shared their light with such a brave and curious soul. On the edge of a sleepy village, under a sky painted with stars, there lived a special person known as the Dream Painter. Her name was Lila, and she had the rare gift of painting dreams. Every night, while the rest of the world slept, Lila would work in the quiet of her cozy studio, creating colorful visions that floated into the minds of those who needed them most. Lila's studio was a magical place. It was nestled in a small corner of her house, surrounded by shelves filled with paintbrushes, pots of vibrant paints, and canvases of all sizes. The walls were covered in paintings of dreams. Some were soft and peaceful, while others were full of adventure and excitement. Lila's job was to paint dreams that would help people sleep peacefully, make them smile, or even guide them through troubled times. But tonight was different. The stars outside twinkled in a way that made Lila feel calm and content, and the quiet of the night seemed to encourage her to take her time. She sat at her easel, brushes in hand, staring at the empty canvas in front of her. It was a special night, and Lila could feel it deep inside her heart. Something beautiful was waiting to be painted. She dipped her brush into a soft shade of blue, mixing it with a hint of silver to make it shimmer. Slowly, she began to paint the sky, swirling with delicate clouds and glowing stars. The brush strokes were slow and gentle, almost as if the stars themselves were guiding her hand. Layla smiled softly as she worked, feeling the peaceful rhythm of her painting. It was as if time had slowed down, and the world outside her window had faded away. As she continued to paint, Lila's mind drifted into a gentle daydream. She imagined the dreams her paintings would create, soft, fluffy clouds that would carry people to places of comfort and calm, and stars that would light the way for those lost in their thoughts. She thought about how each brushstroke would wrap around the dreamer's mind like a cozy blanket, creating a sense of peace that would help them sleep soundly through the night. The studio was silent, except for the soft sounds of Lila's brush dancing on the canvas. The night outside was perfectly still, and the only sound she could hear was the distant hum of the wind as it whispered through the trees. It felt as if the entire world was asleep, and she was the only one awake, working in harmony with the night. As she painted, Lila's thoughts turned to the people in the village. She wondered if they were sleeping soundly, drifting off into the dreams she had painted for them the night before. There were children in the village who had nightmares, and Lila had painted them dreams of happy adventures and gentle creatures to keep them safe. There were grown-ups, too, who needed peace of mind, and she had painted them dreams of calm beaches, quiet gardens, and the soft sound of rain tapping on windows. She knew that these dreams would guide them through the night, offering comfort and solace in a world that often felt too busy. But tonight, Lila felt an extra sense of warmth in her heart. It was as if the universe had given her a special gift, a quiet, peaceful night where she could create something truly magical. She wanted to paint a dream that would be even more comforting than all the others, something that would bring peace, not only to those who slept, but also to the world itself. Lila began to mix different shades of lavender, pale pink, and soft gold, creating a dreamscape unlike any she had ever painted before. She painted a large, glowing moon rising above a calm, tranquil lake. The moonlight shimmered on the surface of the water, casting soft ripples that seemed to dance with the breeze. All around the lake were trees with delicate silver leaves that sparkled in the moonlight, and tiny fireflies drifted lazily through the air, their soft glow lighting up the night. As she painted, Lila felt a deep sense of calm wash over her. It was as if the painting was alive, breathing with the quiet beauty of the night. She could almost hear the soft rustling of the leaves and the gentle lapping of the water against the shore. It was a dream of serenity and stillness, a dream that would bring peace to anyone who saw it. As the final touches were added, Lila leaned back in her chair and gazed at the painting. It was complete. The canvas was now filled with a peaceful, glowing scene, one that would comfort anyone who needed it. She imagined the dream floating out into the night, finding its way to those who needed a little extra calm and comfort. With a sigh of contentment, Lila stood up and stretched. She felt a warm sense of satisfaction, knowing that her work was done for the night. She turned off the light in her studio, leaving the painting to glow softly in the dark, and headed to her own bed. Outside, the stars continued to twinkle, and the moon shone down on the village, casting its peaceful light over everything. Lila smiled as she slipped under the covers, knowing that her dreams, too, would be gentle and full of quiet beauty. She closed her eyes, listening to the soft whispers of the night, and let herself drift into a peaceful sleep, knowing that the world was wrapped in the comfort of the dreams she had painted. In a quiet corner of the world, where the hills gently kissed the sky, there was a small village where the nights were peaceful, and the air was always cool and soothing. The stars above shimmered like tiny diamonds, casting a soft glow that bathed the earth below in a gentle light. The breeze, like a tender sigh, whispered secrets to the trees, making their leaves dance in the night. It was a place where dreams were born, and magic lingered in the air. At the edge of the village lived a little girl named Iris. She had a wild imagination and a heart full of wonder. Every night, when the moon climbed high and the stars twinkled above, Iris would climb to the top of the hill behind her house, where she could see the entire village below and the vast sky stretching endlessly above her. It was her favorite place, the spot where the world seemed to slow down, and everything became calm and peaceful. One evening, as Iris sat on the soft grass, gazing at the sky, she heard a soft, rustling sound. It was the breeze, but tonight, it felt different. It was as if the wind itself was trying to speak to her. Iris tilted her head and listened closely. The breeze whispered something that sounded like a song, soft and sweet, a lullaby from the sky itself. Curious, Iris stood up and stretched her arms toward the heavens, closing her eyes as the wind tugged at her hair and danced around her. It felt as though the sky was gently cradling her, holding her in its quiet embrace. The whispers grew louder, and the song became clearer. The air seemed to hum with the melody, and Iris felt a deep sense of peace settle in her heart. As the night deepened, Iris began to feel drowsy. The soft whispers of the wind, combined with the gentle lullaby of the sky, were like a comforting blanket that wrapped around her. She sat down again, leaning against a tree, and let the melody wash over her. The stars above twinkled brighter, as if in rhythm with the soothing song. It was as though the sky itself was singing her to sleep. For a moment, Iris felt as though she were floating, as if the world around her had become weightless. The trees swayed gently, and the soft murmur of the wind became a lullaby that filled her entire being. She closed her eyes, letting the melody guide her into a deep, peaceful slumber. As Iris drifted off to sleep, her dreams were filled with beautiful scenes from the song. She imagined herself dancing among the stars, her feet light as air. She soared through the sky, carried by the wind, and laughed with joy as the stars played around her like friends. In her dreams, there were no worries, no fears, just the soft whispers of the breeze and the gentle hum of the night. When Iris awoke, the sky was still dark, but the stars had begun to fade as the first light of dawn touched the horizon. The wind had calmed, and the village below was still and quiet. Iris smiled, feeling a warmth in her heart as she remembered the song of the sky. She knew that the night would always hold its magic for her, that the breeze would always whisper sweet lullabies, and that she could always find peace beneath the sky's soft whisper. From that night on, Iris returned to the hill every evening, waiting for the sky to sing its lullaby, to remind her that peace and magic were always just a breath away, beneath the sky's soft whisper.